Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to demonstrate input binding using Dapr. Along with it, you will come to know how to build a microservices using PowerShell. I've taken two examples here. One is scheduler and the other one is a service bus key. Say for example, you may fall in a situation that you need to run some certain task every 30 minutes, or it can be kind of any cron expression. So you can see a YAML file here which says like, hey, I've got a component. Yeah, it's a component here. It's kind of a component. And I've got a metadata which says name schedule. So it's very important because I'm going to build a route in my pod application in the name schedule. So it associates to that and it knows the type is bindings.cron, and it will be looking out for the value of the cron. So if it says at every 1 m, that means the job runs every 1 minute. Consider that I want to run it for every 30 minutes. So I just want to change the number to 30 minutes. If in case I want to do it for 30 seconds, I'll just take it out 30s. So that's how exactly we do. Yes, of course, Dapr supports a cron expression too. There are other varieties of cron expressions. You can pick it up and make use of it. This is admin friendly because we normally call a scheduler like run every 1 hour, right? So I just want to do it as like every 1 minute for our demo now. Okay, so I made at every 1 minute. What does exactly this mean? So I've just made one YAML file configuration and I said, hey, this is my component, and please make sure that you're going to run a task every 1 minute. What I'm going to do in every 1 minute, I'm just going to print out some data for which I've got a code here. Let me comment out the second part because that's for the other demo. Now I'll uncomment it. So here I've got a route called schedule, right? So whenever the job started running, is going to print out this a body message. This is a PS custom object, and it's going to print a timestamp, and it just prints a name. So for example, I just do like CTS Bangalore. Okay, so let me format the document and show you how it works. So I just want to confirm that Dapr is running. I mean Docker is running. It's all good. Let me open up my yeah. Let me come back to this and I'll explain you what command I'm running now. So I'm using Dapr run, and I'll just print only if there is a fatal error messages. That's the log I get. And my app ID is going to be a schedule, can be any text. The application port of mine is running in 3000, and I just tell to Dapr run it on 3500 as a default port, and the gRPC port. So the gRPC port comes into the picture when you have multiple instances running and you're gonna make the communication between two Dapr instances. Okay, so that time it's going to pick up the gRPC protocol. And the components path, that's where I've got my schedule.yaml. Along with it, I've got another YAML file. If you look at here, I've got servicebus.yaml, but I don't have any logical code written for that, so that's not going to harm us. So I've got components. I have to give the components path here, not the YAML file. It's just the components folder path. It can be anything, but you have to just give the folder. And I'm calling the PowerShell core, that's PWSH, and running the app.ps1. When I push enter, what happens? It will spin up a server for me. It's a hook up a server. It's a port server running, right? A PowerShell web server. Along with it, I will get a Dapr instance. That's nothing but it follows the sidecar architecture that will hook up an API. Dapr is nothing but an API provider to build microservices, right? And over there, I'll know localhost colon 3500 / some name. So it's gonna do that in the backend, and it'll allow me to invoke some task using some events. So in this case, I want to run it in every 1 minute schedule. So I've started the server. So we just want to sit back, relax to get the data. So you can see here is going to take every 1 minute, right? That's good. Let me quickly come back here again to see. So what happens? I have executed it. We need to wait for a minute to get the data here. What I'm going to do here in the code, I'm just printing the data, right? Pod host object body. So it will print it on the terminal. Every time I run it, I get some data on my console host, or where I'm running this. If I'm running in the command prompt, I get it in the command prompt. So it's been almost, yeah, it executed at 3:15 58th second. So the next run is going to happen at 3:16:58 second. That's what exactly it does. So now we don't need to be waiting for that. Let it run. Let's come back to the screen a bit later. Now let me go comment this scheduler block because I don't want to use this. I'll uncomment this. This is pretty interesting. I like this. This is like getting the data from the service bus and process that. So consider that you go to a shop and you swipe in your credit card, you do some payment for some purchase, and imagine that data has been pushed to the service bus. You're going to process the data, right? How are you going to do that using Dapr? So that's the illustration I've done here. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to get some data, name, timestamp. Along with that, I'm going to get, so okay, I don't want the time name here. I'll put the timestamp and I'll also get a data, right? Whatever the payment data we collect when you're swiping the credit card. So I'm going to get that data because that's pushed to the service bus. From the service bus, I'm going to get the data and process the data. But this is an illustration. Now I'm not going to process the data. Probably in my next video, I'll demonstrate that. So now I've got a service bus route. That's good. Let me close this and the YAML file too. Let me go back to my service bus.yaml. So here you see I've got bindings.azure.service queues, right? So I've done a binding. This is an input binding. Like in function app, you don't need to explicitly tell whether this is an input binding or output binding. That's been handled by itself. So we don't need to worry based on the behavior, right? Okay. So I've got a connection string. The value of the connection string is nothing but the connection string. I get it from the service bus queue. And I have to give the queue name. So if you come here, you can see I have created a service bus queue. So this is the queue name. And TTL in seconds. So it's going to have time to leave for 60 seconds. So if I'm going to do it for 600, it's going to be for 10 minutes. So that's exactly how it works. Okay. So this is the YAML details for service bus input binding. I can do for output also, but this demonstration is only for the input binding. So now what happens? I just go back and run it. So I'll be getting a service bus route here. So you see here in the metadata, I have named it as a service bus. If I change here, I need to change it in my code too. So that's how it interconnects. All right. So now let me come back to my console host. Now you can see here, it ran for almost for 4 times. That's good. So you can say 15, 16, and it runs every 1 minute. So that's a good example for the scheduler input binding. Now I'm doing the service bus input binding. So for that, what I need to do, I need to make my server up and running. So I'm re-executing it so that it won't have a scheduler job running. Instead, it will be looking out for the service bus route. So it's a post method. So what happens is it will automatically get the data from the service bus. Whenever the message is being queued, it will automatically receives that and it will act on it. So that's what exactly I did it here using the, oh sorry about that. It's a web event, a request and the body. Okay. So the web event is nothing but the pod object which will allow you to explore the request response streamed and all other properties and methods. For me, it's a request method. I'm going to request property I need to access, and that has got a body property. I'm extracting the body, so that will give me the information I'm getting it from the service bus. Let me show you how that works. So in the service bus, okay, so this is my service bus namespace. I've got a queue here. That's iDapr demo. That's the queue information. That's the same thing I've updated here. iDapr demo. That's my queue name. Okay. And coming back to the service bus explorer, that's pretty easy for me to do. So I just go to application JSON and say like the mode of payment. I'll say card. It can be a credit card, debit card, or whatever it is. I don't worry about it. If it's a UPI or something like that. Okay. So I'll say bank. So I'll call this as Amex. Amount. So amount is something like 110. So I'll say currency. Okay, it's currency. Made a typo. Sorry about that. I've missed one comma here. So currency is going to be INR. It's an Indian currency. And what else I can do here? Okay. I'll say transaction. Okay. So transaction is success. So consider if I'm going to get a message transaction success, I'm going to do some process, and if it's failure, I'm going to do something else. But that's not a focus for us now, because as I said, I'm going to demonstrate that in my next video. That is going to be the payment illustration using PowerShell microservices. Okay. So for now, I'm just mocking it up. So I want to get this message in my console host. That's the expectation now. All right. Back here. That's the message. I'm submitting it here. Hopefully it should go good, and the message is already been sent. Back in my console host, you can see here the timestamp, data, because I formatted the data in such a way that I've got a data field in the PS custom object, and I've got web event request body, right? So you can see the mode, bank, amount, currency, and transaction. So I can pass this data and take an action to do the further processing. So in my next video, I'm going to cover service to service invocation to illustrate the payment process. Thanks for watching my video.